Moses frees his people from slavery. He leads them for 40 years, through deserts, through rebellions, through miracles. Everyone reaches the edge of the promised land, except him, Moses. Moses is one of the most influential figures in human history. Prophet, lawgiver, liberator. His story structures an entire tradition, and yet its ending is one of the most unsettling in the Bible. Today, we'll look at where Moses' story really stops, why Moses is forbidden to cross into the promised land, why he leaves no grave behind, and why, for ancient audiences, this ending wasn't a failure, but the point. I'm Alex, and this is The Naked History. When most people think of Moses, they think of beginnings, the burning bush, the plagues of Egypt, the sea that opens. Moses is the man who starts everything, and in the way we usually tell stories, that kind of leader is supposed to arrive, to see the land, to cross the border, to finish the journey he began. But the Bible doesn't tell Moses' story that way, and to understand why his ending feels so strange to us, we first need to let go of the way we expect stories to end. Moses is remembered as a man of miracles. He speaks to God from a burning bush, he confronts Pharaoh, he brings plagues down on Egypt, he raises his staff, and the sea opens. This is the Moses carved into memory, the liberator, the lawgiver, the man who stands between a people and chaos. On Mount Sinai he receives the law, not as advice, but as a foundation, and for 40 years Moses leads, through hunger, through fear, through rebellion. In this version of the story, everything points forward, toward land, toward rest, toward arrival, which is why what happens next feels so wrong. After 40 years in the desert, the journey is almost over. The people are no longer running, they are no longer wandering. An entire generation has grown up on this road. Children born in the desert are now adults. Ahead of them lies the promised land. Moses climbs a mountain. From there, he can see it, the land, the future. This is the moment stories usually slow down, the moment before arrival. And then the story stops. Moses does not cross. There is no final speech, no last miracle, no grand farewell. The text moves on. Joshua takes over. The people enter the land, and Moses disappears from the story, leaving a question the Bible refuses to answer. The Bible does give a reason for why Moses does not enter the promised land. In one account, the people are thirsty. They complain. They rebel again. God tells Moses to speak to a rock and water will flow, but Moses strikes the rock instead. Water still comes out. The people survive. Yet, Moses is told he has failed to honor God in front of them. In another Bible passage, the reason is phrased differently. Moses is accused of lacking trust, of misrepresenting God's authority at a critical moment. The details shift, the wording changes, but the outcome never does. Moses will see the land, but he will not cross into it, and the reason is far less clear than it seems. The Bible does not describe Moses' burial. Instead, it does something unusual. It tells us that Moses dies, and that no one knows where he is buried. No tomb, no monument, no place to visit. This is striking in a world where graves matter. Kings have tombs, prophets have shrines, ancestors have places of memory. Moses has none of that. The man who led the people out of Egypt leaves behind no physical trace. The text is precise, almost careful, and once again, it refuses to give us more. As if Moses was never meant to be remembered that way. Moses does not disappear by accident. The text is too careful for that. His death is described, his burial is hidden, his story is cut short with precision. This is not narrative failure, it is narrative control. Moses is allowed to lead, he is allowed to teach, he is allowed to speak for God, but he is not allowed to be followed forever. The law must outlive the man who delivers it. If Moses had crossed into the land, his authority would never end. So the story removes him, not to diminish him, but to prevent him from becoming something else, a figure beyond limits. So what does this choice tell us about how this story is meant to be understood? Ancient audiences did not expect leaders to finish the journey. In the ancient world, authority was dangerous. Kings who lasted too long became tyrants. Heroes who achieved everything became gods. Moses' story avoids that fate. He delivers the law, but he does not own it. He leads the people, but he does not replace them. The journey matters more than the man, the covenant matters more than the leader. For ancient listeners, this ending was not frustrating, it was reassuring. The future belongs to the people who must live with what Moses began. No human stands above the law, no leader completes the story alone. And once you see it that way, it becomes hard to tell whether Moses' story is ancient history or something else entirely. That still matters today. Moses' story does not end with failure, it ends with restraint. A reminder that no leader, no matter how central, is meant to complete the journey alone. Moses opens the way, he gives the law, he sets the direction, but he does not enter the land. Because the future does not belong to heroes. It belongs to the people who must live with what those heroes begin. And that may be the most unsettling part of Moses' story. Not that he stops, but that the story keeps going without him. History isn't finished. Stay curious.